Dalai Lama. So I'm on a first tee with him. I give him the driver. He hauls off and whacks one. Big hitter. The Lama. Long. Into a 10,000-foot crevice right at the base of this glacier. You know what the Lama says? Gunga Galunga. Gunga Gunga Gunga.
Welcome back as we start the second half hour of the show and get to travel every once in a while, and been very fortunate over the years through this show and otherwise to travel different parts of the world, and you never know who you're going to run into and who you're going to meet as a new friend and such. And there's a guy that's an international man. He is a renowned performer, an unbelievable singer, the pipes. You'll hear that in just a second when we introduce you to Mark Preston. But a guy who is living the good life, loves it, loves cigars, loves his golf, and heck, that sounds like exactly a kind of guy that we need to get on the show. And of course, when we met Mark Preston a number of weeks ago, we pitched it to him, and he said, hey, "Really, you host a show? You'd like to have me on?" I said, "Of course, you're a performer. I mean, I'm going to take a backseat to you on this show because it's all about my guests. But when you see this guy perform on stage, it really is. You sit back and say, wow, I didn't think a guy like that could sing like that." And, it takes me to the days now where you can go on one of these singing shows and become an instant star. This guy worked very hard for a long time. He is a veteran, and he has served our country well and continues to do that. And the ladies love him. Well, enough about this. I don't need to talk anymore. I'll let Mark Preston talk about himself. Let's welcome Mark Preston to Teed Up with Keith Jones. Mark, great to catch up with you.
Hi, Keith. It's good to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was a pretty good intro. I've heard some of the people, the guys that bring you on stage and stuff, and it's not nearly as good as what I just did there for you. So you're welcome.
Yeah, but the problem is I can't live up to any of that.
Probably later on in this segment, we're probably going to make you sing a little bit. So. You're an interesting guy. You're an interesting guy. You get to travel around the world. A lot of people know your name. Formerly of the Lettermen, so he looks a lot younger than the Letterman group has been around since the late '50s, early '60s, and still perform around some places or whatever. Mark's doing his own thing, and I see why you're doing your own thing because you're just that good. Again, pretty impressive. I didn't really want to tell you that as we were sitting around having a beverage or two, but you do good work, and I'm glad I actually took the chance and went to one of your shows.
Well, thank you, Keith. I appreciate the fact that you were there, and a lot of people, when they hear that I used to be a part of the group, unfortunately, because the group has been around a good long time, a lot of folks do think that I might be out there with a walker, and how old is this guy? But the group is still performing, and I just left them in 2011, and I've been having a ball working alone. I always did work as a soloist before I was asked to join the group, and so it's good to be back out there calling the shots by myself. I truly enjoy it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your backstory because I found that of interest as well, and I mentioned in the intro that you are a veteran and served the United States of America proudly, and talk about that. It was during your years of service that you really got your big break, because everybody talks about, I put a lot of time in, but there's always that one time when you get the break that drives your career from that point forward. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's correct. I was stationed in Omaha, Nebraska in the Air Force at Offutt Air Base. And I was a Russian linguist at the time. I spent the first couple of years studying Russian and going through all the training schools and survival schools and all that stuff because I was airborne. And then I ended up taking a tape to the Air Force Band. There was a division of the Air Force Band there, the 702nd, and I took a demo tape into them, and they asked me to sing with them. They liked what they heard, so they asked me to sing. And what happened was I was kind of like moonlighting with the Air Force Band while I was still a linguist. And the commander-in-chief of Strategic Air Command at the time was a fellow by the name of Russell Doherty. He was a four-star general, commander-in-chief of the Strategic Air Command. And General Doherty asked me to sing at a party that he was having for Tennessee Ernie Ford, who happened to be General Doherty's navigator during the war. And so he was hosting him, and they'd remained friends, obviously, through all the years afterwards. And so Ford was there, and Doherty asked if I would sing. And so I did, and that's where I met Ernie Ford for the first time. And he sat me down, and he said, what do you want to do? with your career? And I said, well, I want to sing in lounges in Las Vegas. I want to go to Las Vegas and sing in lounges. And he said, I can't help you. And he turned around and he walked away from me. And I thought, oh, my God, what did I just do? I mean, I'm meeting a tremendously big star, and I've blown it. You hear the story, you get one shot, and I blew it. So a little while went through the party, and I went up to him and I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford, but forgive me. Did I say something that offended you, or what did I say wrong? And he said, son, you're thinking too small. If all you want to do is sing in lounges in Las Vegas, I'm not the guy that's going to help you. If you want to start singing in main showrooms and big venues and amphitheaters, you got that kind of talent. I'll be the one that helps you get started if that's what you want to do. And I said, well, of course I do. I just wanted to start someplace. And he went, well, that's different. And so he gave me his manager's card, and I saw him about a year later at a television show in Oklahoma City called the Stars and Stripes Show for NBC. And between the time that I'd seen him the first time and that television show, I was lucky enough to win the Air Force Talent Show, and I traveled with a group called Tops in Blue, which is like the top 20 performers in the Air Force every year. And so I won the talent show. I beat 55 other guys that year in 75. And then when I finished the tour, we went to 7 European countries and 100,000 people we sang for, bases, all around. It was a 4-month tour. And when I got back, my commander was good for his word, and he transferred me out of the Russian language thing into the Air Force Band on a full-time basis there, so the 702nd. So I was full-time with them. I went back to the television show with Ford, and I said, I did what you told me to do. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I went out and sang for 110,000 people was the final total, give or take a few head. And he said, okay, now I'll help you. Now you seem to be doing what I wanted you to do a year ago. Here's my manager's card. When you get out of the service in a year, you call us and we'll help you get started in Los Angeles. And he did. He didn't have to take me under his wing. He didn't have to help, a 20-year-old punk kid coming out of the service, but he did. He was good for his word. He got me a shot at a club in L.A. called The Horn. They got me an audition for the Dinah Shore show. I got that. I started working cruises. Then from there, they helped me get started in Las Vegas, put me in a showcase that I was seen by the producer of the Dunes. I mean, I'm a prime, perfect example of being in the right place at the right time. And I've been very, very lucky and tremendously blessed to have people like Tennessee Ernie Ford, Phyllis Diller, Robert Urich in my life to help me, at various stages along the way. And I've enjoyed a 45-year career because of people like that.
Talking with world-renowned performer Mark Preston on TW Keith Jones. You've probably heard his work. If not, definitely worth checking out. And Mark and I were just sitting around and enjoying each other's company and some other people that were with us, and it was interesting. And then I mentioned a guy by the name of Tom Dreesen, and I've known Tom for a number of years, met him through a golf tournament, of course, and Tommy's made a nice living emceeing and doing things like that. And I think he told me he was on the Tonight Show more than anybody else, and so I think he still holds the record, but Tommy. But as it turned out, Mark said, "Oh, I know Tom Dreesen," and went from there. So it's interesting these little circles that you run into when you talk to people about certain people.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, my brother Tom, is also an entertainer, and he started in Chicago. And so that's where Tom Dreesen started when he was working with Tim Reed, Tim and Tom. Then when they split up and started their own careers, Dreesen worked with my brother Tom. And then when I started at that club called The Horn in Los Angeles, Tommy was a regular there. And so that's where I met him and Kelly Monteith and Johnny Dark and Dick Shawn. All of these, Sammy Shore, Pauly Shore's father. Mm-hmm. I was working with these great headlining comics every night of the week. And Tom has been an acquaintance, and we've done several things together, paths crossing, whether we're in Las Vegas or on a golf tournament or something like that. And so Tom's been a good man, and I mean, he's a legend. and one of the nicest people walking the face of the earth. He really is a good guy.
All right, his golf game is pretty good. Of course, he gets, like I say, he gets invited and sneaks into all these different tournaments. How's your golf game these days?
My golf game is, I won't, let's put it this way. If I play a round of golf with you, I won't hold you up. We'll keep going.
Okay.
And I'll play to, low 90s, high 80s. So I'm not gonna hold you up. We'll string a few shots together. Unfortunately, with as much as I'm traveling anymore, and with all the luggage restrictions and the extra bag charges and all of that garbage, I can't take my sticks with me anymore. And I'm also, getting on a ship, singing for the next day, and then leaving. So I don't really have any time to really get out there and play as much as I'd like to. The last few times I've played, I was again, I'd have a couple of really nice shots. I'd string a few pars together, and then we had like 3 snowmen in a row. So it just the wheels come off, then they come back on, and at the end of the day, I have a beer and a cigar, and I'm a happy guy.
All right, Mark, as I like to say, there's a reason golf is a 4-letter word. Okay, that's just okay. That's the bottom line. Put it in your act if you want. Just give me some credit along the way. But that's exactly. That's exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting because you get on cruise ships. You do a number of cruise ships. You do a lot of performances in a given year. Now, you were in Florida, I don't know, a couple months ago, and sold out like every performance. I mean, I know the rooms only hold 30 people, 35 people, but still, to sell out all those venues, that's tremendous.
It was really a lot of fun. I was working with a producer for the first time named Stu Moss, and we did a showcase a couple of years ago because they booked those things way in advance. And there's, all these wonderful gated communities all through South Florida, from Miami up to Daytona Beach. And I think the last I'd heard, I don't know if it's urban legend or not, but there are like 220 of these communities. And so you do a showcase because everybody wants to see a showcase now. So you come in, you do a 20-minute thing, and all of the communities, or good numbers of them, are represented there. And then they go back to their committees and say, we saw this guy, we'd like to have this one, we saw a comic, something. And then there's several agencies down in that area that are buying for, each community will do like 6 shows a season, maybe 2 a month or 1 every 3 weeks or something like that. And yeah, we did 29 shows starting on around the 10th of January. The last show was the 28th of March. And it was pretty much every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at each of these communities. And I just had a ball. We had a great band the whole time, a 6-piece band with me the whole time. I had great sound. Lights is, you're at the mercy of what's in the room, and they have on and off don't work, but that's okay. And you give them a show. And each of these venues, I think the biggest was about 1,200 people. And the smallest was a small country club that was maybe 150. But most of them were between 600 to 800 people. And we really had a ball. I had a tremendous time in all the shows, and I can't wait to go back. We'll go back in a couple of years and try it again.
And in case those are listening that want to be Mark's accountant, he gets paid a minimum, so 150 or plus, people, it doesn't matter to him. What drives you the most when you're up there being a professional performer like you are? What gets you charged up when you are up on stage?
I truly enjoy what I do. I've had a couple of like epiphanies or awakenings in my career to where when I was younger, I always thought I had to really, go out there and, hey, how you doing? And all that high energy stuff. And as I've gotten older and I've matured, I've just kind of started to just sit back and let the music do the work, sing the poem of the song, put really fun songs together that people enjoy, as well as the songs that I like to sing. I'm not one of these guys that's going to jam some new song down your throat just because it's at the top of the charts. I mean, I don't work that way. I want to have the audience have as good a time as I'm having, and I want to do for them the kind of show that I would like to go see. I cut my teeth watching people like Wayne Newton and Tom Jones and Sinatra and Johnny Mathis and Ernie Ford, and each of them had their own unique style. And it was fun to watch how each of them, I mean, the difference between a Tom Jones show and a Tennessee Ernie Ford show, and yet both of them would destroy their audiences. They'd tear them up. So I just want to go out there. I get excited when I see them holding hands, when I see people lean in, maybe steal a little kiss during a song, with one another, that kind of thing. I really, really enjoy that. And at the end of the evening, if they say, "Wow, that 90 minutes went by so fast," that's perfect, because I don't want them ever looking at their watch. And so, if I can make their day and have them forget about day-to-day problems for the hour and a half that I got them, I did my job. I'm a happy man.
Well, I got to say, as we're talking to Mark Preston on Teed Up with Keith Jones, you sing the classics, what a lot of people these days call music of your life. But the Sinatra songs that have lived for a long, long time, and I love Tom Jones, who share the same name, so what's not to like? Those songs, though, resonate with a lot of people, and that music is really making a comeback, if you will, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
Absolutely, it really is. Like I talk about in my show, like you saw two different performances when we were on the cruise line, and I remember sitting with one of the friends that we were talking with, looking at me and going, "Why don't you do more contemporary things?" And it just, I had to look and go, well, first of all, look at your audience. I have to try to put my show together depending on who I'm singing to. If I'm singing to folks that are baby boomers and above, I'm not going to stand out there singing Bruno Mars tunes, because they'll look at me like I stole something. Now, when I go on a venue that might be an open-air fair date, we're doing one later this year up in Gaylord, Michigan, we're going to bring out the more contemporary stuff for them, the Bruno Mars, the Sam Smith, all of these things. We're going to come out there and John Legend tunes. We'll have more fun with that kind of stuff, as well as those standards, because like you said, everything old is new again. And these songs, they're classics. They do stand the test of time. I mean, Rod Stewart has gotten more Grammy nominations for his Great American Songbook album than he ever got with Maggie May and songs like that. It's people really enjoy these songs because they remember where they were the first time they heard them. They remember their first dance. They remember their first kiss. And that's romantic, classic love songs. They'll never go out of style, ever.
With renowned performer Mark Preston, heading to our final break, and we'll be back to wrap up the show. And we're back with Mark Preston, world-renowned performer, singer. The guy's got a lot of years on those legs. It's just that's just the way it is when you're that good. 40-plus years, 45 years 45 is the number he used. So I don't know about that. That's a long time to be doing anything. But obviously you love it, and it's good things. And you mentioned Bruno Mars. He's a guy that paid his dues, and nobody wanted to sign him. I love the backstory, because I really like Bruno's performances. He's got a very tight band. He's got horns, which I love, and it's really a great concert to see. I mean, there's just a lot of energy with that performer, and I know even though you stand there and do your songs, without quite as much movement as Bruno, guys like that trying to come up into the business and going from nobody will sign you to the top of the world like Bruno is. I mean, you just don't see that much anymore. And how did today's artists, that road that they hoe compared to when you were coming up?
Well, the business is completely and totally different. From the advancement of a recording deal to how the record labels, if they even get involved anymore. Social media, I mean, YouTube, they distributed their last album completely as a download. I mean, Taylor Swift is just pulling songs off of a particular website because she doesn't agree with their policies. Everything is it's instant now. And but the bottom line to the whole thing is, no matter what, to get a break, it's still purely and simply luck. It's about who picks up the telephone. There are 80 million wonderfully talented human beings on the planet that are saying, would you like fries with that? The only reason that I'm where I am and have done the things I've done is because I've been lucky. And there have been people that have seen me at the right place at the right time with what they're looking for. There have also been plenty of times where I've gone up for a Broadway show or an audition in Los Angeles, and they'll look and go, nah, the mustache. I mean, and yet somebody now all of a sudden, they want you because of a mustache. Bruno Mars knocking his head against the wall for how many years trying to get a break. Finally, somebody picked up the phone, and then he just goes, this is what I was trying to tell you. This is what I can do. And so it's just, you must have the perseverance and the patience of Job if you're going to be into this industry, and you got to be really hip with the social media stuff now, especially. And there's no albums anymore. There's single cuts, single downloads. It's just a whole different business side. But to get into it in the first place, it's still all about who picks up that telephone and who gives you a shot.
Well, you talked about having a performance later this year in Gaylord, Michigan. One of my favorite places on the planet, actually. As long as you go in the summertime, you're good. You get me nowhere near that area in the wintertime. But pack your clubs. There's some great golf courses in there. I had an opportunity a number of years ago to go to Boyne and play off of Lake Michigan, a couple of just fabulous courses up there, including Rick Smith's par 3 course in that area. So definitely pack your sticks for that one. You don't have to get on a ship, so you should have, put them in your car. Hopefully they're flying you. Who knows with you? I never know whether you're taking the Pony Express or the Queen Mary. So.
Oh no! Well, I'm flying to Detroit and meeting my musical director and my drummer there, and then we're driving up. But this time we are taking our golf clubs. We are going to take advantage of the time, and because I've got a couple of dear friends that live up there, or used to live up there, and Bob is always talking about the golf there. Once the 27 feet of snow melts,
right,
and in the 6 weeks that they have time to play golf.
Right.
Before it starts snowing again. But it is my plan to try to get in a 18 while we're up there and take advantage of it.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, I know you grew up in Indiana. That's another story for another time. Of course, we're going to have you back on, and we love what you do, and we're very very pleased that we got to meet you, Mark, and getting to know you better as time goes on. Mark Preston is going to take us out of this segment, end the show. I want you to sing a bit of a love song in Russian. I didn't know you knew Russian. Here we go. But you got about 30 seconds here, 40 seconds maybe. So take the microphone. I know you're Johnny on the spot, so take us home, Mark Preston.
In Russian.
Yeah, go ahead. Just stop stalling. He's stalling in Russian. You said you knew Russian. No wonder you have a hot Russian wife. That makes
but the Russian that I know we're talking about turning on afterburners and firing missiles and stuff like that.
All right. We're gonna open the show next time you're on because you know what? I've seen you perform. You can make missile lingo sound really velvety. Okay, so I don't want to hear it out of you, Mark Preston. You better go practice, man. Mark Preston. Yes, world-renowned performer, that Mark Preston, my guest on TW Keith Jones. See, what a wise guy. Practice. You better practice, Mark, too. Take your game to the next level, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.